This is a bit of a weird video to be making. I'll save a lot of the details because, let's be honest, everyone knows that Payday 3 is in a rough spot right now. So what I've done is I've gone back to Payday 2. Yeah. Coming back to Payday 2 though, it's been super fun. This has been so long since I've last played the game, a lot of it feels fresh again. I've been playing around with a lot of different stuff, and recently I've picked up and have been playing quite a lot with the Anarchist perk deck. Anarchist is the 15th perk deck added in Payday 2, added with the Sydney character pack DLC. The perk deck puts a spin on how armor usually plays in Payday 2, but instead of armor regenerating all at once when you're not being shot at, it instead regenerates your armor in small amounts in intervals, whether or not you're being shot at. If you have heavier armors equipped, you generate bigger amounts of armor, but with longer intervals between the regenerations. Because of this, the 2-piece suit is just the best armor to use on Anarchist, as it regenerates a small amount of armor with the smallest cooldown, and it can still also reach 2-shot armor, and I'll get to why both are so important later. When your armor breaks, you also get given 2 seconds of invulnerability, with a 15-second cooldown. Anarchist also buffs your armor value, but at the trade-off of losing 50% of your health, going from 230 health to 115, but that lost health gets converted into 120% additional armor, for 138 extra armor. And then on the final card, you generate 10 armor for dealing damage, with a 1.5 second cooldown. Now is a pretty good time to bring up the big reason why Anarchist is such a good perk deck. And I mean, there are quite a few good reasons, and I'll talk about them later, but the biggest one is easily armor gating. If you're unaware of what armor gating is, I'll give a quick explanation. Basically, with the way that armor works in Payday 2, it's very easily abusable. When you have armor and you take damage, you'll take damage to your armor until it breaks, then you start to take health damage. The big thing to note though, is that if a shot does enough damage to break your armor, it only does damage to your armor, and does no damage to your health. Then, armor gating is just the term for using that mechanic to your advantage. So when you're playing DSOD and you have heavy SWATs doing 225 damage, you can just block it doing anything to your health, as long as you have one bit of armor. Now, with Anarchist having 2 ways to regenerate armor with short cooldowns, you can basically just juggle having a small bit of armor up at all times, letting you be a lot more aggressive as you can just keep on gating enemy damage. With this though, it does make snipers a pretty big threat for Anarchist, as they go through armor straight into health, completely bypassing armor gating. As when you play Anarchist, you'll most likely be having a low amount of armor up to be armor gating with. Then, combine that with Anarchist's squishy health pool, and you're kinda gonna get your shins kicked in by snipers. As I mentioned earlier, Anarchist also gives you 2 seconds of invulnerability on your armor breaking, and this is massive. The 2 seconds of invulnerability can help out in a bunch of different situations, but it's used most effectively when you use it as a safety net when you're doing different things, like making sure you don't get graced, moving between cover, or using it to safely cross large distances. Now, an important thing to always keep in mind when playing DSOD is breakpoints, and specifically the 225 damage heavy SWAT breakpoint. On the 2-piece suit, Anarchist is able to reach 2-shot armor in 2 different ways, with Jokers or with Iron Man and Frenzy. With the Jokers, as long as you have partners in crime aced, taking a Joker will increase your health by 30%. The neat thing about this though, is that it also affects that 50% of your health that gets converted into armor, pushing your armor value above the 225 breakpoint, letting you have 2-shot armor. If you use Iron Man Basic and Frenzy Basic, your armor value on the suit will be 205.4. Then, with the 10% damage reduction applied to 225, it becomes 202.5, which then lets you take 2 shots before the armor breaks. Now, when it comes between using Jokers or Frenzy and Iron Man for 2-shot armor, I'm much more of a fan of using Jokers, as they act really good as meat shields and they don't cost too many points. Another strength of Anarchist is just how accessible crit Berserker setups are. Now, you can technically put crits and Berserker on any perk deck in the game, but they definitely work the best on Anarchist. With Anarchist being the most effective in the 2-piece suit, you get a lot of concealment on it, allowing easy access to low blow, letting you get crits. If you're not quite aware of why crits are so good, it's because they work in a pretty weird way. Instead of being something like double or 50% extra damage, it just applies the headshot multiplier on top of what damage you're already doing, which lets you get some pretty crazy damage numbers. Then, with Anarchist being an armor-based perk deck, it's also very convenient to use Berserker, as you'll be relying on your armor to stay alive, and not your health. Crits and Berserker are pretty good on their own, upping your damage by a pretty significant margin. However, when you combine the two together, they can lead to some absolutely devastating damage potential, and it makes Anarchist a great deck for wanting to build for pure damage. While I'm on the topic of skills, a pretty interesting thing with Anarchist is that it's one of the few instances where Bullseye Ace actually has a purpose. Bullseye Basic is vital for pretty much every build in the game, with just how essential armor gating is for when you're playing on DSOD. I say almost every build because there is the massive exception of Stoic, but to be fair, you don't even have armor to begin with on Stoic. With how similar the cooldown timers on Anarchist's final card and Bullseye are, it's basically useless for gating with. When you ace Bullseye though, it increases the amount of armor you gain upon headshot, going from 5 on basic to 25 on aced. This is pretty big for Anarchist, as a large part of playing the deck is that you can't regenerate all of your armor at once, and you have to build back up to having 2-shot armor. With the increased amount of armor you can generate on headshot, it makes building back up to 2-shot armor much quicker, and by extension, it makes your life a lot easier. Sadly though, Anarchist isn't a completely foolproof perk deck, and it very much sets you up for a very glass cannon style of play, where if you mess up on your armor gatings, get caught out without 2 seconds invulnerability, or just get unlucky, you'll pretty much just go down instantly, with how fragile your health bar is. I'd even go as far as to say it's a bit of a noob trap. Fairly often you'll see players run Anarchist on DSOD, but not really understand how the deck works, and because of that, they'll just keep on going down over and over and over again. Once you get into the groove of it and you really learn how to play around with it, Anarchist is a very strong, and most importantly, very fun perk deck. If this video has actually gotten you interested in trying out Anarchist, you're in luck, as I've also got my own personal Anarchist build for share. It's been my personal favourite build as of late, and it's the build you're seeing in the background footage. For this build we use the Contractor 308 and the Mark 10. The Contractor has 168 damage tier sniper, which when you combine with Zerk and crits, yeah, it can lead to some absolutely devastating DPS, with the massive increase to damage on the Contractor's high rate of fire. With Berserker, the Contractor will one-shot headshot heavy and light units as well as cloakers. On medics and tasers they'll take 2 headshots, unless you crit on the first shot. If you don't crit on the first shot though, it's fairly easy to hit another shot with the Contractor's high rate of fire. On the Contractor, we mod it with the Contractor Silencer, Accuracy Boost, Compact Laser Module, Rubber Grip, 45-degree Iron Sight, Speculator Sight, and the Wide Stock. In the build, the Mark 10 acts as the dozer counter, as even with the high rate of fire of the Contractor, at close quarters, the Mark 10 is just faster at dealing with them. On the Mark 10, we get the bigger the better suppressor, stability boost, auto fire, compact laser module, speed pool magazine, and the skeletal stock. For skills, we get medic bag skills up to Inspire Basic. As cool as it would be to have Inspire Ace on this build, it costs quite a lot of points that can be better put elsewhere, and Inspire Basic is still really good. We get 2 Jokers, with Partners and Crime Ace we can get 2-shot armor with them. We then build up to Graze Ace with Marksman Ace and Aggressive Reload Ace, as this will help bump up the accuracy on the Contractor, as it suffers from having low accuracy. Aggressive Reload is super useful, helping us play a lot more aggressively as you can make very quick reloads with it. Then, Graze Ace. Graze Ace is Graze Ace. It's a very strong skill for clearing groups of cops with a single shot. We get Resilience Ace because, I'll be honest, I really hate flashbangs. Die Hard Basic, and Bullseye Ace for faster armor building. We then also get Scavenger Basic, Hardware Expert Basic for faster dual repair times, Duck and Cover Basic, Inner Pockets Basic for more concealment, Second Wind Basic, Optical Illusions Ace for even more concealment, the Professional Ace for increased accuracy and stability, as well as faster snap to zoom, and Low Blow Ace for crits. And then finally, we get Martial Arts Basic, Bloodthirst Basic, and Berserker Ace to increase our damage. For our armor, we use the 2-piece suit, as it's the best armor for Anarchist. For throwable, we use the Molotov Cocktail, as it's how we'll be able to lower our health for Berserker. We use the Ice Pick Melee, just because it's the highest damaging melee for its amount of concealment, and lets us one-shot medics and tasers with enough Bloodthirst stacks. This is a super fun build, and with it you can rack up a ton of kills and clear a bunch of space with Graze, all while still being pretty tanky with 2-shot armor and 2 seconds of invulnerability on your armor breaking. That just about covers it though. Anarchist is a super fun perk deck to play with, so if you haven't tried it out yet, give it a try, I'm sure you won't be disappointed. As usual, I've been Cookie Dough, and have a good one.